everyone. My name is Sarah Profit. I'm the instructional designer that is managing PSYC201 development this semester. We are going to jump right into our walkthrough today. I want to introduce our course developer for this course is Doug Lalama, and we've been working tirelessly on this course all semester. So we appreciate all of your feedback and time, letting us know how you've felt about the course, and obviously appreciate your time today joining us to do a quick course showcase to see the new version of PSYC201. So we're excited to show that to you. Some quick housekeeping just to go over. This format we're using today for the webinar is probably different than other webinars you've had at Ivy Tech. Maybe you've already used GoToMeeting. If so, that's great. This is a new program that we're piloting. We've had some technical issues with Blackboard Collaborate, so we're looking at this new tool and hoping to be able to use this more widespread in the future. So hopefully you didn't have any trouble getting in today. It seems to be a very intuitive program for us here, so we're excited about that. So if you are on a telephone right now, if you've called in, then you can mute yourself just like you normally would on your phone. If you have a headset with a microphone, then there's a tiny little green microphone icon at the top of your toolbar on the left, close to the left side, that will mute your microphone. You are certainly welcome to open up your microphone at any point, but we want to keep the mics closed, while we're talking over the course, and then avoid any feedback, background noise, those types of things. If you have a question, you don't want to interrupt by turning on your mic, you can always type in the chat box. I'm typing in there right now so that you can see what I'm talking about. If you could locate the chat box for me, that'd be great. We'll be monitoring that. Doug and I will be monitoring the chat box as we go through this. So if anything comes up, we will definitely draw attention to that and address all questions and comments. So I'm going to jump right into the overview of our development process. So we start our process, by obviously we talk to you guys as a committee about the textbooks and those types of things and what you're looking for development. We bring in our course developer, who is our subject matter expert. Then we work on this project through milestones. So we have 5 milestones that are covered throughout the process. And the first milestone you saw come across your email with the session alignment matrix, which we call the SAM. And that is just a very large blueprint that basically outlines the entire course. So hopefully you were able to take a peek at that. It very closely aligns the course objectives with the competencies that Doug had written to cover the basic or the more specific skills for the students, and then all of the activities, assessments, and supplemental activities are covered in that as well. So hopefully you were able to take a look at that. Milestones 2 through 4 are going to cover sessions 2 through 16 in their entirety. So hopefully you also were able to go in and check those out in the course. You are enrolled as students, so you're able to see from the student perspective. And then obviously milestone 5 is going to be after our walkthrough today. Any changes that need to be made will be done, and then we send the course to Tech Check to make sure everything is technically sound and ready for release, and that will close out our process here. So my role is just to oversee that entire process that I just explained to you. So each of the milestones, and as we're building in Blackboard and making sure things are aligned, we're not missing anything that was included in the SAM, working on the technical aspects of adding in links and making sure everything is working on that front, and then just being a go-to person for Doug if anything came up, and working through any issues, questions, concerns, etc. Obviously, you as committee members are vital to our process, and so we always include you on all of those milestone releases and let you know where we are in the process. We always ask for feedback at any time, even while the course is running. We obviously welcome that, but it's especially important while we're developing the course, because that's the time when we can make all kinds of changes. We can do things completely differently while we're in development. But after the fact, it gets a little bit more difficult to implement major changes. So we do invite feedback as often as you can give it, and we appreciate your time and effort on that front. And then obviously, like I explained, Doug is our subject matter expert, so he's able to include any resources that he has with the content. He is able to design the basic structure of how the content is presented to students and make that make the course student friendly and be able to speak to the student and for that to make sense. So he's done a great job with that, and including rich multimedia in the course that you'll see here in just a minute. So I appreciate all of his efforts and applaud him for his work. So I'm excited for him to be able to show that to you. So without any further ado, we're going to jump into the next part of our agenda here, and I'm going to turn over the presenter rights to Doug. He's going to share his screen, and we'll start with the syllabus file. So Doug, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, can everybody see the syllabus?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so when I was appointed for this position, we kind of looked at this class. We, as Sarah indicated, we developed certain objectives that came from the class itself. And from that, we developed session objectives to go through the process. So you can see that, the first part of the syllabus, I'm sure you're all familiar with, and so I'm just going to kind of go through this. But I did just want to look at the major course objectives that are here, and this comes from the statewide group. So these are the 5 of the learning objectives, as you can see kind of at the bottom of page 2 here, that we used as we developed the class. The text that the committee chose was called Invitation to the Lifespan. It was the 2nd edition by Kathleen Berger. Kind of in the interim period of time between when that textbook was selected and now, Worth developed a augmented version or a special update to include the changes made by the DSM-5 that came out last May. And so, the bottom line is that there's about 5 or 6 pages of the textbook that are different than they were before. Essentially, it's exactly the same as the 2nd edition with just a few pages that are different. But just to let you know that we're using the most up-to-date current version of that book that they have. Okay. I'm going to skip down through the policies and procedures because they're pretty much the same. As you can see, that there are places marked in red where each instructor will have to change, for putting in the dates of so students don't get dropped. The last day of withdrawal here. The course communication, instructors as always have the option of either getting emails or getting messages through the Blackboard messaging system, or both, and that's another thing that they'll have to change. We come down to probably the area that you're interested in, the assignments and grading. Any questions on any of that stuff up to this point? Okay. All right, so this class is going to have proctored exams. And we'll talk about those as we kind of go through. Okay, so what makes up the course? The course is made up of a number of assignments. In the first week, there are some course introductory assignments. One of them is a syllabus quiz. Another assignment requires them to submit to the instructor the proctor site that they're going to be using. Obviously, because this is important for the instructor to know, so he can do what he or she does what they have to do to get the students into the test centers. And then there's also an introductory discussion board, basically a discussion board where they introduce themselves to the rest of the class. Okay. The second component of the grade calculation are quizzes. And the chapter quizzes, there's 14 chapter quizzes. The only session where there's not a chapter quiz is session 9, chapter 9, and I love this. I love the textbook because it has 15 chapters, and that ties into the 15 sessions outside of the final. So it made it very easy for me to kind of do this. So session 9, there is no quiz, okay? And session 9 happens to be when the midterm exam is. Okay? So other than that, each chapter has a quiz. The chapter quizzes are 15 points each, 15 questions, 15 points each. They have 45 minutes to take the quiz. The quizzes may be taken up to 3 times, okay? And the score of the highest grade is what gets posted to Blackboard. The pool of questions that these quizzes are drawn from is basically the same pool of questions that the exams are drawn from. So there is one big pool of questions, one for each chapter, and then one that combines all of the chapters together for the 2 exams. Now, there are 2 exams. There's a midterm exam, which covers chapters 1 through 8, and then there's going to be a final exam, which covers chapters 9 through 15. The exams are 75 questions, 2 points each, for a total of 150 points. They are all multiple choice questions, and they cover the information that is outlined throughout the chapters that we'll see as we go through once we get into the Blackboard section. But again, all the quizzes, all the exams come from the same major pool of questions. For each exam, there are somewhere between 700 and 800 question pools to draw the 75 questions from. The students have 100 minutes, an hour and 40 minutes to take each exam. They must be taken at a test center. They're proctored. And they have no use, or they can't use their book or any other kind of materials to help them in the test. Okay, any questions on the tests or the quizzes? All right. We also have 2 written assignments worth 100 points each. The 2 written assignments are 4 to 5 page papers. Okay. The first one that is due in session 7 is an observation and interview assignment. What the student has to do is to observe a person age 12 or under, and based on that, on their observations or even interview, if they can want to talk to them, they have to kind of develop a paper which compares the observations which they've seen versus the theoretical milestones that children are supposed to reach by those ages. So it's kind of a combination of looking at what's actually happening versus the theory of what's supposed to happen. So it's kind of a comparison of those 2 things. Okay. The second paper, which is due in session 14, is a paper about developmental theory. And again, it's a 4 or 5 page paper, and there are 3 options available to the student. They can pick either Piaget's cognitive theory, Freud's psychosexual theory, or Erickson's psychosocial theory to write about. So basically, they just have to write a description of any one of the 3 theorists' theories. The papers, both papers are supposed to be in APA format, and there's more information that we'll see as we move through the Blackboard session. And then finally, the final component of the grading are discussion boards. And there are 13 discussion boards. This does not count the introductory discussion board that's in session 1. But in session 2 through 8, and session 10 through 15, there is a discussion board in each session. So the only time when there are no discussion boards are in session 9, again, when the midterm exam is, and session 16, when the final exam is, and session 1, which is the introductory discussion board. Okay, the discussion boards, as we'll see, because we'll go through some of them when we get to the Blackboard portion, all kind of deal with somewhat real-life type situations. So they have to take kind of this kind of real-life type situation or a circumstance, and they'll have the opportunity to witness a video, because each of the discussion questions will have a video attached to it, as we'll see when we get to there. The initial response to the discussion board is due on Wednesday, and should be in the 250-word range. In addition, they're required to make 2 responses to their classmates, around 100 words each, and those are due on Saturday. The way that the grading breaks down is that the initial response is worth 14 points, up to 14 points, and the 2 replies are worth up to 3 points each, which totals to 20. Okay. And then if you kind of look down at the points and weighting, my goal was to kind of try to make writing and testing kind of about 50-50 in the class. So you can see, if I add the written assignments and discussion boards, it's about 460 points. The quizzes and tests are about 510 points, and then orientation. So it's maybe just slightly skewed toward the test and quizzes, but roughly about 50-50, which was my intent, for a total of 1,000 points. Okay. The rest of the syllabus is the same information that's on all syllabuses about additional support and services for the students. Okay. Any questions on the syllabus?
Doug, I have one question about the point value for the discussion board items.
Yes.
I was curious about why you went to 20 points, because in the abnormal course, which I recall you put that together too, am I right?
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
That was Brad Mitchell.
Oh. Ah, okay. Yeah, because this was a point that of contention I have with the abnormal course. It's 10 points per item. And I like what you have here much better. I also like the way you have it laid out.
Well, thank you.
With the number of words. Well, one thing I was wondering about is does Blackboard, and if anybody knows the answer to this, have the capacity to count the number of words in the postings?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can look into it for you.
It would be nice if it did. If it would just give the word count, it would make scoring a lot faster.
Let me look into it, and I'll let you know. Good question.
I can't remember if it does or not, to tell you the truth.
Well, when we went over the abnormal course, I felt like that 10 points was not enough for discussion items. And I'm teaching it this semester, and I'm finding that to be true. I don't think that students are putting in as much effort into it as they did in the previous version. It was 20 points.
The discussion boards are quite substantive, so and just to let you know, when I kind of my first pass through, I had done it the opposite. I had 20 points for the quizzes and 15 points for the discussion boards. And when I got to the end and looked back on it, it just seemed like the discussion boards, there weren't enough points. So what I did is I just reversed it, and I made the quizzes 15 points. I made the discussion boards 20 points, and it seemed to me, at least in my mind, to kind of make it more equal and more indicative of what the amount of work involved in the process as well. Any other questions on the syllabus?
I'm a little concerned about the quizzes being able to repeat them 3 times.
From what standpoint?
I think it encourages like just taking the quiz with no preparation and take it again and take it again.
Well, it randomizes each attempt, so
true.
it's not like they're gonna get all the answers the first time.
Test. Yeah, you're right.
And again, you're drawing 15 questions from a pool and any quiz of about 100 questions.
Yeah.
So I mean the chances of even getting like 3 of the same questions is about 10%. So I mean it's probably just not going to happen that they're going to be able to do that.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Good point.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Mike. This is Deb.
I do.
I like the way that those quizzes are set up like that. Since we have proctored exams, this gives the student, if they take advantage of the 3 times to take the quiz, it gives them really 3 times to at least be more familiar with the types of questions that might show up on that. So I think if, again, they take advantage of that as a study tool, it could actually help with their success level on those proctored exams.
I think that's a good point, Deb. Are there any other questions on the syllabus?
Doug, you said the responses to the discussions are due on Saturday. Is that what
Correct.
I heard you say?
Yes.
Okay. But the course still runs Sunday to Sunday, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So what was your thinking about that, about cutting it off a day early before the end of the session?
Well, there were a couple things that went into my thinking. First of all, everything, a lot of times everything is due on Sunday, and it creates sometimes Blackboard issues of things crashing on Sunday night. So one thing it does is it spreads that out to a different day. Second thing is that I think more days that we get the student into the classroom, the more likely they are to partake in the activities of the classroom. And third, I just kind of have a general belief, and I've been doing this. I've been using this method in a social psychology class that I designed regionally, and I've been using for about a year. And what I've tended to find is that by pushing it back one day, I find that students have been responding not just on Saturday, but they've been responding even earlier. And that tends to make it more, I think of discussion boards as something that should be a discussion, not an assignment that you do at 11:30 on Sunday night. So that's kind of my thinking.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the more fewer days that it's concentrated into, the more it'll be like a real discussion.
Mm-hmm. Because I remember when I used to teach the PSYC201 before the last revision, where everything was due on Sunday night. I mean, how can you have a discussion when 90% of the students are posting their initial response at 10:30 on Sunday night? I mean, it's not a discussion, then it's just an assignment. And so I think that the more we can push back a little bit, even a day, I think it kind of helps make it more of a general kind of discussion feel than just something that's due on a specific day. I mean, that's just my thinking. And the other thing is that, like I said, I've been doing it this way for a year, and I've probably taught like 8 or 9 classes under that mode. And I've never, because I was interested in what the student reaction would be to kind of having to do something that was due on Saturday. And I've never heard one single complaint. No one's ever said anything about it, that, it's different or whatever. So, and I mean, and to some extent, it actually helps the student because it does spread out the time when things are due.
Okay,
although they might not agree to that, but that's it. Any other questions on the syllabus? Well, thank you, Matt. Those were great questions. Can we move on then to the next section? What do you think, Sarah?
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm pulling up now is the main course room for the class. And, you know, like all of the classes, we have announcements. The initial announcement is posted. And I just want to show the, if we go to the Start Here button, and click on the syllabus calendar. We saw the syllabus already. If we click on the calendar, you see that I have both a 16-week version and an 8-week version of the calendar. Obviously, the instructor would eliminate whichever one doesn't apply. Since we're starting in the summer, you know, they would use the 8-week version. In addition, there are printable versions for both the 8 and the 16-week versions as well. But this is pretty standard. The thing that the instructor would have to do at the beginning of the class is to go in and put the exact dates in for the due dates. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the way it is. Any questions on the calendar?
I have one question or a comment about the 8-week calendar.
Okay.
Yeah, basically it's just 2 sessions in 1 week, and but I noticed you still had 2 dates. Why not just put 1 date for the whole session?
Well, the dates relate to the specific requirements.
Okay,
So for example, if you look at week 1, you can see that there's 2 sessions there, session 1, session 2.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that Wednesday, the Wednesday in session 1 and the Wednesday in session 2 are going to be the same date.
Right.
Okay. So these in essence kind of mirror each other because session 1 and session 2 fall into the same week.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to kind of maintain the integrity of the session within the week. I don't know, do you think that's confusing?
Well, I have had trouble with students in the summer not really grasping the idea that you do 2 sessions in 1 week. And my thinking was that just having 1 date might help underscore that.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big thing, but I can see how somebody might look at the 1 and 2 real quickly and not look carefully, and still get the idea that if I do the 1 in the second column.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, you know, kind of no matter what you do, because I teach the 8-week version both even in the regular semester. I just started an 8-week version, and you know, I mean, I put in a lot of, especially the first week or two, or the first, you know, the first week I send out like 3 announcements, making sure that they understand that, you know, there are 2 sessions each week. So I think it's somewhat of an educational process. So, but let me think about how I could, you know, kind of do what you're suggesting.
Mm-hmm. Because basically everything.
Beg pardon?
Hello? Yeah. Basically everything's going to be due on Sunday night except the discussion responses, right, which are due on Saturday.
Correct. Well, the initial response is due Wednesday, so that they have to make an initial response to the question Wednesday. Then the responses to their classmates are due on Saturday, and then any other kind of assignment would be due on Sunday.
Yeah, and so that's a standard thing. So everything else is going to be due on Sunday night at midnight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not a big point, but maybe something to consider.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the calendar? All right. So the next thing I want to point out is the instructor resources here. The instructor resources include an instructor manual, and I also added information on the proctor form. Okay, so if you look, you'll see that there is a link down here at the bottom of the section on the proctor forms. Everybody see that? It says www.ivtech.edu. If you click on that, that gives the information on all of the different proctor sites throughout the Ivy Tech system. Okay. And then if you go to here, the attachment, which is a proctor form. Okay, this is the proctor form that the instructor has to complete, and I highlighted in green kind of the areas that they would have to fill out. And then this has to be typically emailed to the various sites where the students would be taking the tests. And it's likely that, you know, any instructor in any region might have multiple, you know, might have students from multiple test centers. You know, it's not even in kind of in a Northwest region where I teach, it's not unusual to have on an online class to have students from all 4 of the different campuses throughout the Northwest system. And in some of the SOC 250 or the Psych 253 class, social psychology class, which has a kind of a limited distribution throughout the state, I typically get students from all over the state. So, you know, it's likely that instructors will have to send these to multiple centers. And if any of you have ever taught an online class with a proctored exam, you kind of know kind of the pain in the butt that this can be to do this. But it is what it is. So at least I kind of put it in a place where they can kind of find it. Okay. All right, and then I want to just kind of draw attention to the instructor manual. I developed an instructor manual for this class. I took from a lot of different things. I kind of used the PSYC201 as kind of a template, but then I made some changes and took some stuff that was in the overall Ivy Tech instructor guide and kind of put it all together. So, but you know, this is just kind of an overview of what the course template looks like. You know, everyone's seen it. Then we kind of do an overview of this course structure, you know, kind of what they'll see. It talks about the learning activities, what's in the learning activities folder, what's in the assignments and assessments folder. So this is all stuff that we're going to go over, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but just to kind of see that there is, you know, information, you know, what they're supposed to do before the beginning of the semester, you know, how to change the course calendar, you know, how to change the information in the instructor area, just a little bit look at the grade center, and then, you know, kind of what to do during this semester, kind of with a checklist. So this is all, you know, pretty much just basic, you know, kind of what to do. And, you know, if you want to review that in greater detail, I would, you know, I would be glad to hear any comments you have on that. All right. So now we're going to go to the class sessions. And I'm not going to go through every session, but I'm going to go through some of them that, I'm going to go through session 1 to kind of highlight pretty much what's in each of the sessions. And then I'm going to go through some of the sessions that have slight differences. Okay, so each session follows kind of the same basic process. We have a session overview, so basically the session, it says what you're going to learn. Okay, so it basically tells you what's going to happen. Worth, who is the publisher, kind of has these little introductory videos, which they're like 2 or 3 minutes, and kind of just give a little overview. So they're kind of nice. They can kind of see a little 2-minute visual of what the session or the chapter is going to be about. Then we come down to the learning objectives and content. And so in each one of the sessions, we'll see, by the end of the session, you'll be able to, and these are basically where we have the main objectives of the course. Like, for example, demonstrate knowledge of scientific research method. That's a basic objective of the course. And then, we see the breakdown of the session objectives. Okay, so for example, define the scientific method, describe the differences between cross-sectional, longitudinal, cross-sequential studies, etc. Okay, and you'll see that in each one of the sessions. We'll see the course objectives, and then kind of as part of that, the actual session objectives that tie to those overall course objectives. And then kind of the second part of that is it's kind of a listing of what gets completed in terms of assignments, etc. So we'll see that during session 1, you review the syllabus and course calendar, complete the syllabus quiz, post a response to the introductory discussion board, read chapter 1 of the textbook, complete the chapter 1 quiz, and send a message to your instructor using the preferred method, indicating where you're going to have the proctored exams. Okay, so it's kind of a highlight of the tasks that they have to complete during that session. And then in the next area, we have learning activities. Learning activities are general information. They are not graded assignments. So let's see what we have in here. Sarah, can you make Blackboard move faster?
I wish.
Okay. So we see that, in each of the sessions in this area, we have a PowerPoint presentation. So this is a PowerPoint presentation. This is a publisher PowerPoint presentation for Chapter 1. So there's that. When they click on the link, it takes them right to the presentation. Okay. Then we have flashcards and practice quizzes. The flashcards, in essence, lay out all of the various concepts that are going to be used. We also have practice quizzes. In fact, there's 2 practice quizzes they can take. Now, if you notice the screenshot here, this is what they see. And the first time the student goes into this in session 1, they have to create a password, a username and a password. Once they do that by putting their name and getting an email address, they email it to Worth, and they get it set up. And then after that, they can use that same username and password whenever they use it as they go through the class. So that's kind of a one-time thing they'll have to do to set that up. And that allows them to utilize the both the flashcards and the quizzes. Okay, and in essence, the flashcards have all of the concepts that the questions that the test and quiz questions are developed from. So, and the practice quizzes, again, the questions again come from the same general pool of questions that are used for the quizzes and the tests. So again, it gives them an opportunity to kind of see how they're doing, to kind of continually go through and see what they have. Okay. Then, in each of the sessions, we have something that's called the guest lecture. And what I did was I found, actually on YouTube, I found a whole series of lectures on a lifespan class. Now, they didn't use the same Berger textbook as we use, but it's the same basic general information. And so, these typically last maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Some are a little bit shorter. And so if the student wants to hear, kind of see kind of a presentation with someone giving a lecture about it, for perhaps the audio learners, they have that option as well. And then there is just some, I usually put a couple or one or two or other pieces of information on. For example, this has a couple of presentations on ethics of research, and research is a topic that we talk about in Chapter 1 in Session 1. Okay? Any questions on that section? All right, so the next area are assignments and assessments. And in the assignments and assessment area, this is where all of the graded assignments, anything graded, will be in this section. Let's click on that. So you can see, for example, there's information on the introductory discussion board. This is where the student tells a little bit about themselves. This is the proctoring assignment. This is the assignment where the student basically sends a note to the instructor, letting them know where they're going to take the 2 proctored exams and what they have to, the information they have to submit. We also see that there's a syllabus quiz that's worth 10 points, and as you can see, can be taken as many times as possible. And then the Chapter 1 quiz. This is the first of the quizzes covering the chapter information. So those are the Session 1 assignments and assessments. Any questions on that? And then finally, we have the summary and overview, and the summary is just a kind of a summary of what we talked about or what was discussed, what was learned in Session 1, and then then the bottom sentence is kind of the teaser of what's going to come up in the next session. Okay, and all of the sessions are set up in that manner, where we start with kind of the overview. We go to the objectives and content, the learning activities which are not graded, the assignments and assessments which are graded, and then the summary and the overview of the next session. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. The next one we're going to look at is Session 7. Sessions 1 through 6 follow pretty much the same format. In Session 7, this is where we see the first written assignment. So you see that pretty much everything looks like Session 1 did, but now let's look at assignments and assessments. Okay. So we see that there is a quiz, there's a discussion board, and I'm going to talk about the discussion boards separately in a minute. But then we have the writing assignment. So you can see in the writing assignment there's all the information that is necessary for them to complete the assignment. If they click on the assignment, then, again, it gives a description. It allows them to view the rubric that will be used to grade the paper, and then they attach their assignment and submit it through the Blackboard system. The rubric is embedded in the grading process, so the instructor will be able to use the rubric to easily grade the assignment. Any questions on that?
Doug, I was looking for the rubrics in the Blackboard site. Do you have those up there yet?
Yes. Yeah. To get to, if you look at, let's see. There it is. You see that?
Hang on a second. I was on another page here. Let me get back to you.
Doug, did you also put them under resources?
No, I did not put them under resources.
Oh, that's where I looked.
There is a spot in there that says course rubrics.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't find them. I tried to get
Yeah.
them.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to interject real quick. The course rubrics folder is something we just build into our template. If there's any rubrics that the developer or instructor has that are standalone files and not, using the Blackboard rubric tool, if you want to see a list of all the rubrics that are embedded in Blackboard, you would need to go under the control panel in Blackboard. Under course tools, there's a button for rubrics, and they'll all be listed there if you wanted to see, a list of all of them.
Oh, okay.
Or, yeah, additionally, we could, Doug and I could just take these ones that are embedded here that he's showing you right now, take a screenshot of those and throw it into a PDF file and have that in the course rubrics folder if you feel like that's more intuitive for students to have there and not in the actual assignment. I mean, to have them both, essentially, not just embedded in the assignment, but if you feel like maybe it's more intuitive to have a course rubrics folder in addition to having it in the assignment. I'm open to, I mean, we're obviously open to either way, but go ahead, Doug.
Michael, was your question kind of intended from the student perspective or from the instructor perspective?
Well, I think both. I mean, I don't ever like to click on a link and find nothing,
Exactly.
So I would either take it off, or could you put a link to it to where the other rubrics are located?
Put a link in the instructor resources area?
In resources, yeah.
In resources, yeah. Let's work, I'll make a note of that, and we'll work on getting some standalone documents of those too, so we at least have them.
I think it's confusing for everybody if you have something that's just empty.
Yeah, no, we would remove it before releasing it anyway if it was empty, but yeah. Yep, thank you.
Well, it's a good, easy way to be able to find it. I mean, I like having it under a separate link, so maybe that answers your other question. As an instructor, I like to be able to get to it quickly and easily.
Well, when you go to grading, when you go to Blackboard.
That's right. Yeah, it'll come up.
Grading. I mean, when you click on when you click to grade it, it'll be right there for you. So you don't even have to.
Yeah, maybe you can just take that button out.
I do think it would be worthwhile to have it in the rubrics folder for students, though. For grading purposes, I see what you're saying, Doug. I think it does make sense that it's right there when you go to grade it. But for students, I think, yeah, we could add that in as a folder. So I'll add that to my notes.
Okay. Because what they'll see is they'll see this view rubric thing. Do you think that's not enough?
Need flashing lights and big arrows.
Yeah, trust me, it's been missed before.
All right.
Doug,
any other questions on that?
Doug, could you go back to the page right before, like if I were going to click to get to this assignment information, could you go just back to where I'm clicking from?
Right here.
Okay.
Right here.
I wonder if you might want to put something in these instructions that says rubric is located at the next stop and also in that other folder. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just so as a student,
Yeah.
as I'm reading my instructions here and I want to find a rubric, I know where I'm going to find it. I'm either going to find it on the next page after I click here, and I can also find it under resources.
Okay, so let me click on this. Can we put something, maybe in addition to that, can we put something in this area that says you can review you can see the rubric if you click on the button above that says view rubric?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to just add some verbiage in there about clicking the view rubric button, just to very directly point them to it. So yeah, very good. Good point.
And then we can put it in we can do a screenshot of it in the resource file too, in the resource
Exactly.
section as well. All right, any other questions on that? I think those are good points. All right, if we go to session 8. In session 8, the only thing that's different is that we have if we look in the learning activities folder, there is a practice midterm. So the students can take a practice midterm exam, basically under the same, it's the same as what their regular exam is going to be. So there's going to be 75 questions, and again, drawn from the same pool of roughly around 800 or 900 questions. And so they can take that. I've allowed them to take that up to 2 times if they want, to so they can kind of gauge in a real life setting, with 100 minutes to do, what their score would be. So again, just another opportunity to practice taking the exam. Any thoughts on that?
I think that's a nice feature. I like it.
Okay. No. One of the things that, and I think I'm probably looking more for feedback on this than anything else, is that the way that it's designed now, the score will show up. Their practice exam score will show up on their Blackboard on the grade on their grade section. Okay, although it says that it does not count toward the total grade, but they will have a score for the practice exam. Do you think that could be confusing to the student? I've been kind of going back and forth on this in my head. I'm going to just kind of be interested in what anyone else has to think about that.
So basically, it'll continue to show even after they take the real midterm exam.
Yes.
The practice score will still be there.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And again, I mean, the instructor themselves could go in and
you could take it down, sure.
Take it down, if they wanted to.
I think it's an interesting idea, leaving it up there. It's where it lets the students see if they take it more than once, was that worth my time? Did I make any progress? Did my score go up? And then also to compare the practice to the actual examination. So I think it might be worth the risk of some people possibly getting mixed up about it, but I assume they would probably ask the instructor for clarification if they did, and they could get it straightened out. So.
Yeah. Okay. And it does say that it does not count toward the grade, but the score will appear in Blackboard. But sometimes maybe I should highlight that in
again, red, big flashing letters, and arrows.
Yeah, I think my opinion is the potential benefits for the students might outweigh the risk of confusion.
Yeah, I would agree too.
Okay. All right, well, good. Okay. So if we move on now to session 9. Session 9 is different in the sense that while they do still have to kind of continue on and read a chapter, we do move on to the next chapter. But the only assignment, there is no quiz, there is no discussion board. So the only assignment is the exam. And so, this is where they would take the exam. Obviously, they have to go to a proctor site. The amount of time that they can go is, they have to go that week of the exam, and they're limited by whenever the test center is open. And I'm not sure if all the test centers are open on Saturday or not. I think some might be, but I don't know if they all are. So basically they have to go somewhere between Monday and Friday, most likely, to take the proctored exam. I set it up where they're not allowed to use any materials. And I'll ask this question, to you guys. I think these tests are going to be hard, and I know some of the results haven't been all that terrific on the proctored exams that they've had in the PSYC201 class. What are your thoughts on making even though it's a proctored exam, making it an open book exam?
I'm against it. Yeah, I think there's enough open book work already in online classes. So I like to have something that tests what the student has in the brain without the use of any outside aids.
All right. I mean, I think that's, again, I've been kind of going back and forth on this one too. Kind of the academic side makes me agree with you, Mike, but but sometimes the practical side makes me think otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do the same thing in my face-to-face classes. I usually use a bunch of quiz-type things that can be done outside of class that are open book, but I always have at least a final exam, but generally a midterm and a final exam that are not open book, that are done in class.
But I mean, in the argument is that in a face-to-face class, you can kind of direct them to those things that are important that end up being on the test. And in an online class that's randomized, among 1,000 questions, you really can't do that. I mean, in my face-to-face classes, I talk about, the test is about the stuff that we kind of discuss in class and kind of the important points. In an online class, it's covering everything. So that's my only concern. And I think if you look at the results from the 101 class proctored exam, I don't think they're very good. I taught the online class 101 class last summer, and they have 150 points test, and the highest score I got on either one of the two tests was 120 out of 150, and I got a lot of scores that were well below 100 out of 150, and so the results were kind of ugly, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
So,
I'm looking right now and teaching abnormal online this semester. Let me see what it is for this class, how they did on the proctor exam, if I can find it. Let's see what the average was.
Well, I guess I'm thinking you have to have gone through 101 to get to this course.
mm-hmm.
Hopefully something has sunk in and seems familiar when you do it a second time, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I hear both sides and struggle with that myself, as we've discussed.
And typically the people who take 200 classes generally are better students than the people who take 100 classes.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, the average in this class was 100 out of 150. That's about 67%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, is that something we should be concerned about?
Well, I mean, I don't think that's horrible. If you think of it in terms of like a normal distribution kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually shoot for like a mid-70s kind of class
mm-hmm.
average. Something.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do in my face-to-face class is sometimes if the class average is not passing, I just apply curve to the grades and raise it up to mid-70s.
Mm-hmm.
But we could do the same thing with this, potentially. You could have the instructors curve the grade up to 75.
I'm totally against curving grades.
Well, I mean, what would you, in a statewide class, you know, how could you have, you know, you couldn't have every instructor doing something different.
No, you can't.
Yeah. Well, I think it's defensible, but perhaps it will be confusing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think the purpose of having a statewide class is so that it's the same for everybody. And if you then allow instructors to curve grades, then it doesn't become that anymore.
Well, you'd have to curve it by the statewide average.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be an interesting.
Well, if the discussion is between open book versus curving grades, then I say keep the damn books closed, because I think curving grades has a potential for being a huge mess statewide.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm not going to.
And I'm totally opposed to it philosophically. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep it as it is. I was just kind of throwing that out for.
You just had to mince things up, we know.
I did this one. Okay. All right. The next session we're going to look at is session 14. And session 14 has the second of the writing assignments. Okay, and so this is, as I said earlier, this is a theories paper. The students can choose one of three different options, either Piaget's theory, Freud's theory, or Erickson's theory, and write a paper with the instructions. And then again, the rubric is also built into this assignment, just as is in the first assignment. So other than that, there's really, not much difference to the two. Again, it's worth 100 points, etc. Okay. The rest of the sessions, session 15 also has a practice final exam, kind of the same deal as we talked about with the practice exam in session 8. And then section 16, the only thing that is there is the final exam, that last week of class. Again, proctored process. So those are that's kind of an overview of the sessions. Any questions on those?
Hey, Doug.
Yeah.
See right there above the box that's got the video, you see the word, oh yeah, right by your cursor over to the left, where a spouse developed Alzheimer's, typo right there with Alzheimer's. There needs to be a Z.
All right.
I caught another typo that I copied for you that I'll send to you, but.
All righty. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. And then I'm going to click on the discussions. And the discussions are all, they're kind of all set up very similar to each other. There's a video, there is some information on the topic, and typically some, oftentimes some reference back to the textbook. Okay, and the kind of the things that we talk about, all the discussion boards kind of relate to issues that people might face or issues that are of that might be of concern, kind of perhaps even in society. The session 2 discussion board, for example, which covers the prenatal period, is a discussion of babies who are born with various addictions, and what should the status be of a person who uses drugs or some other kind of substances that are harmful to the fetus. So that's kind of the question that's there. There's a little video and some information on an article for them to read, and that's kind of a kind of an overview. Okay, the next one talks about the immunization. Yes.
Yeah. Not completely pertinent to the course, but still on topic. In the news over the past week or two, a lady was sentenced to 20 years in jail. Her child died from opiate overdose. Did you see the article?
No, I did not.
Yeah, it's the first time anybody had believed that a child received enough opiates through breast milk to die.
Oh, wow.
And this child did. Even though it's kind of questionable theoretically if a child could even get enough opiate from breast milk to kill it.
Yeah, I'll have to look up that article.
Where did you find that article, Mike?
I can't remember. I'll see if I can find it. I'll email it to you if I can run across it, Deb.
Cool.
All right. The next question has to do with immunization of children. And, obviously immunizations have saved many lives over the years, but there is some pushback, especially in the United States, of parents are deciding not to have their children immunized. And so this question relates to that. And there's like a little kind of a video debate on that issue, and it kind of gives them, there's a reference in the text that talks about that. So again, the purpose is to get them, these are kind of critical thinking type situations, getting them thinking about these various aspects. Okay, and I'm not going to go through all the details, but I'm just going to give you the topics for each one. The session 4 discusses the effect of daycare on children, especially infants. The kind of the pros and cons of doing that. The next session talks about English as a second language and the number of students coming into the United States who don't speak English and the issues involved in that. Obviously a major issue in our country now. The next session discusses spanking of children. Lots of most psychologists say you shouldn't do it. Lots of parents in the United States do it. And so there's some kind of issues and a couple things. There's this one video is a comparison between Sweden and Singapore. Sweden, where spanking is outlawed, is actually an illegal act, by federal law, versus Singapore, where spanking with canes tends to be, kind of the thing to do. So some, different areas, and then a cultural aspect, kind of a discussion of how spanking is used in the African American community more so than in the Caucasian community. Kind of an interesting talk. The next one discusses childhood obesity, obviously an issue that we have. The next one is a discussion on the difference in math ability between males and females, in school age, and the factors involved in why that is the case. The next one discusses sex education in schools and kind of different ways of that being approached, especially kind of between the United States and Europe, to kind of see how the differentials are. The next one is a discussion on how mates are selected, kind of the criteria that people go through in choosing a spouse or a long-term partner. The next one is now we're in the adult period of time. This talks about age. It's one on age discrimination, especially in the workplace. The next one is a kind of the impact on divorce, and it looks at it kind of from a couple different angles. Looks at it kind of from the impact on the spouses themselves, and then the impact on children if children are involved in that process. The next one is on Alzheimer's disease, and it's kind of how to deal with it. There's two little videos. The first one is just some information on Alzheimer's disease, and the next one tells a story of a guy who he had a wife who had early onset Alzheimer's at the age of, I think, maybe early 50s. He has her in a nursing home, and now he's dating a new person, and they both go visit her at the nursing home. So it's kind of an interesting little story. And then the final of the discussion questions relates to the decision to put a parent in a nursing home once they get to be a certain age. So I've tried to kind of, with the discussion questions, I've tried to kind of make them kind of real type issues that people kind of deal with kind of on an everyday basis. And, one of the main course objectives is, was to identify, instances where the lifespan concepts affect our everyday lives. So I tried to kind of use the discussion boards to kind of take care of that aspect of the class. Okay. All right, so that's kind of it. Any overall questions? Any questions on the discussion boards themselves or anything else?
Just a comment on the discussion boards. It sounds like you got a lot of interesting topics.
I agree.
Cut across, the whole lifespan. So
I think they should get some good discussion too.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Doug, if you don't mind, I wanted to just mention something real quick.
Okay.
About the course, just so that Deb and Mike, you both are aware of kind of what we experienced this semester. If you haven't already kind of heard about this or been involved in some of these talks, it's a college-wide kind of initiative for us to make our courses as digital as possible. So we've implemented our Include Ed program, which has digital textbooks and all digital resources already integrated into the course, no access codes, none of that. And have had much success. We've been working with three main publishers, Pearson, McGraw-Hill, and Cengage. This course being Worth, which is also, Macmillan is also part of that. We reached out to that publisher to see if they were interested in working with us on that digital initiative. And they have been very responsive. However, it's been on their kind of back-end engineering side taking a little bit longer than they would have expected to do any of that, taking out the access codes, et cetera, et cetera. So it is quite possible in the near future, I'd say within the next year, that this course could become all digital. But as of right now, it's we're keeping it as the traditional version that it is. I just wanted to throw that out there just so that you kind of knew what the future might hold, and then obviously we would have Doug involved in that process once they were able to work with us. So, but they have a product called Launchpad, which is, in my opinion, was really interesting, and I liked how they had their resources in there, and Doug was able to look at the Launchpad too. So if you ever had a chance on Macmillan's website to look up Launchpad, it would give you a little bit of a taste of what that's like. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out there, and also just wanted to say, good job to Doug. He's worked very, very hard on this. We've had, a long development process, and he's been very patient with me and my feedback, and I appreciate your time today, and very, very proud of Doug for this course here, and it sounds like, with your comments here that you enjoyed as well. So glad to hear that. Doug, I'll let you close out with comments.
Yeah, I appreciate all the feedback, and as we kind of go through the process, if you teach this class, I'd like to hear any feedback you have on the actual process. I'm going to be teaching the class this summer, so I'll kind of be part of the process as well. So it will be interesting to see how it works in real life.
Yeah, I'll be teaching it this summer also, Doug.
Well, good.
I couldn't hear what Mike said, but
He's teaching it also.
I said I'll be
oh, you're teaching it as well?
Also. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah, I found that article and I emailed it to you, Dad.
I got it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any other questions, comments?
Doug, I think you've done an incredible job, and I'm really thrilled for you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, very nice job. It looks like a really nice package.
I think it's going to be a great course.
Well, good. I hope so.
Well, thanks again to everybody for coming today. If you have any other questions, concerns, please let Doug or I know. I'm going to send out a summary of the meeting today, so you'll have that. And then I'll be posting the recording in the PSYC201 org, and then I'll also send out an announcement that that's been posted when I'm done with it. So just want to let you guys know. But thanks again for coming. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.